Chip, welcome. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great, Glenn. You just downgraded me, though. I'm a candidate for Texas Attorney General, not United States Attorney General.
Sorry.
But I am.
Yeah, you're right.
No. But I'm delighted to be running for Attorney General for the Republic of Texas.
Yes. Chip, when you saw this come from the governor, you and I have talked about things like this for a long time. That we should have done this with CAIR and the Muslim Brotherhood a long time ago. Instead, under, I believe it started really under George Bush, but then it just got worse and worse and worse. We were letting CAIR and the Muslim Brotherhood and everybody else into our own Department of Homeland Security, decades ago. Tell me a little bit about why it's important what Texas did, and then let's follow it up with enforcement of that.
Yeah, well, first of all, you and I have talked about this for a long time. As I think I've talked to you on your show, it was the last substantive conversation I had with Charlie Kirk, because it is very clear to me, it was clear to him, I think it's clear to you, that our side for way too long, even today, although I think it's waking up, have been asleep to the war on the West that has been in process now for decades. And everyone's waking up to London, they're waking up to Paris, they're seeing now Dearborn and Minneapolis, and then, oh my gosh, Mamdani. And then they're like, wait a minute, there's a problem in Texas too? And some of us have been saying that for a while, and going all the way back to the Holy Land Foundation, right? The Holy Land Foundation, which was a Dallas-Fort Worth issue 25 years ago. You and I talked about that last time. But for listeners, understand how long this has gone back. You've got unindicted co-conspirators associated with the Holy Land Foundation that are tied to CAIR. You have CAIR celebrating October 7th. You have all sorts of indications. In fact, a story yesterday in the New York Post, our friend Amy Meck and her great organization, they helped break that story and get it out into the world about the extent to which CAIR is tied and their financial ties to the student issues on campuses, all of the connections that they've got to the radical terrorism, that we've got to connect all of those dots. And now enter the governor, I think appropriately. They've been targeting Epic. They passed something in the legislature this last spring, but we got to be much more aggressive. The governor is right to be aggressive here. This will give increased scrutiny and tools. And I've got to dive into exactly what those tools are with respect to what it opens up at the state level. But the mere statement by the governor that both, obviously dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood, but CAIR, that CAIR is in fact an organization that we should treat as such, is so critically important. Because it's masquerading as some, the Council on, American Islamic Relations, or it's crazy. And the idea that they should get tax breaks is insane, which is why I introduced legislation to take away their tax benefits. But that's the bare minimum. I can tell you, and I can't go too far into it, lots of really good conversations are occurring with the appropriate officials, law enforcement entities in Washington to follow the money. We've got to follow the money. I believe that there's a criminal organization that is connecting all of these dots. You and I talked about that before. It's not just the Islam issue and Islamification of America, but also the Soros DAs, the open borders, Antifa, Southern Poverty Law Center. And by the way, SPLC is now putting a target on me because I'm daring to speak out about this. It's all connected. It's all connected, Glenn.
So what is it the state can do? First of all, I think for anybody who doesn't understand, and Texans, wake up. If you lose Texas, you lose the West. As Texas goes, so goes America. And as America goes, so goes the rest of the world. If you're looking at Dearborn, you're looking at, these places in Minnesota, and you're seeing that, and you think that's not related to you. It is worse in Texas. The numbers in Texas are staggering. And just what's happening in the small little town that my studios are in. It's the most diverse zip code in America, Las Colinas, Texas. And I've been ringing this bell for 12 years. When I first got there, I started doing stuff on the Sharia law, the movement to bring Sharia law to Las Colinas, Texas. And Chip, I got to send you a copy of this interview I did. I did it with the imams of the biggest mosque in Las Colinas, and one of them halfway through just blurted out that, yeah, I mean, we all agree that hands should be chopped off, if you steal. And I just let him go for a while, and it was clear Sharia law is happening, and now they have put the Sharia courts into place to handle things. Because, well, it's their right to handle it as a religion. No, not when it comes to usurping the Constitution of Texas or the United States of America. And that's happening now in Texas. So give the person who's not necessarily paying attention some idea of what is coming and is here already in Texas.
Well, first of all, you've got an explosive growth of the mosques that are growing in Texas. We've got over 300 and counting, more being planted in Texas every day than any other state in the union. You've got the Islamic Center down in Houston, which is 150,000 square feet, that has, major issues. You notice you saw that imam down in Houston that was going around saying, well, you can't put this on the shelf. They're trying to take over and change what should be being done down there. That's implementation of Sharia. There are activist Sharia courts in Texas, which the governor rightly yesterday said that they're going to go shut down because they're in conflict with Texas law. Mm-hmm. And notably with what he's doing with the declaration, the governor is making very clear that he can connect the dots with the legislation that the legislature passed with that declaration to say no land interest can be acquired with anybody associated with these organizations. Now, again, I think this is the tip of the spear. I think this is I don't mean this negatively. It's the kind of obvious, let's go after these guys. But there are myriad organizations that we need to go after and shut down. And let's be clear. I don't even know why we're allowing any foreign nationals to own Texas land. Like, literally, we need to be very aggressive and very clear. I don't know why massive corporations are owning our land, by the way. Separate issue, but all related. I'm as bothered also by boardrooms in New York buying up our ranches and our meatpacking plants and everything else, because, again, this stuff is all related. The Red-Green Alliance, the Marxist Islamic issue, it's all connected to root out and destroy Western civilization. So that is to say, what the governor did is really critically important. It is a step so that we can go stop some of these things in these enclaves like Epic City. But we need to be much more aggressive. And again, I introduced legislation, as you know, to vet people for Sharia law and adherence to Sharia law when we're admitting them into the United States. But today I'm filing a bill called the Pause Act to pause all immigration until we have sorted our crap out, until we've dealt with H-1Bs, until we've gotten rid of diversity and diversity visas and chain migration, until we've dealt with Plyler v. Doe, which, by the way, we need to challenge, which was the Supreme Court case saying that we must educate illegal children, until we've dealt with birthright citizenship, until we've cleaned up our mess, until we've put in place standards for not admitting people that are adherent to Sharia law, till we're removing people that need to be removed. Why are we importing more people? Let's put Americans to work. Let's stop destroying our culture. Let's freeze it. In Texas, let's do exactly what the governor is doing and more.
Did you see what's happening in Germany? In Germany, one of their ministers said there's no longer a problem in Syria. The war is over. It's peaceful. Everybody in Germany who came for, refugee status to Germany, you're all going home. Now, they're not going to do it. However, they did strip citizenship from a Syrian immigrant who praised Hamas as heroes. And this same minister came out and said, your citizenship has to be, contingent on shared systems of values. And they're starting, at least, to talk about stepping up. I think this is the right thing to do. Have we thought about exactly right. Have we thought about if you have refugee status and your part of the world has now calmed down, saying, get out, go home?
Absolutely, we should do that, and we've been talking about that, and the need to reverse, frankly, the abuse. So there's two elements, okay? The reversal of the abuse of asylum, parole, refugee laws that were abused, right? We had people coming in who really weren't in need of refugee status, or they weren't, actually qualified for asylum, and they were abusing parole. It was supposed to be a case-by-case basis. So there's that whole mess. Then when you even had a legitimate case for asylum or for refugee status, then we should review those and say, okay, guess what? Things have calmed down. You can go back. Those are very specific provisions in law, that are designed about specific persecution or very specific situations in war or otherwise. And when that's no longer the case, then you no longer have the reason to have that qualified status in the United States. So we should address that. But let's remember, Glenn, and I think this is so important, that we have to understand, like we're talking about the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't have it right in front of me, but I read the proclamation by the governor, and he was pointing out that, when that organization was founded, like 100 years ago or something, early last century, that it was founded, it was very specific about jihad, and very specific about jihad being an obligation, right? And that obligation comes from Allah. And that's for everybody adherent to Islam in the eyes of the Muslim Brotherhood. And so understand what's happening. And people need to realize that, because this is, everybody wants to go and say, well, we can't talk about this shit because of the First Amendment. Bull. That is not true. Okay, first of all, we can talk about it because of the First Amendment. Second of all, we can talk about it because, yes, you can believe what you want, right? Our Constitution, our Bill of Rights says that. But when you are turning that into a political movement designed very specifically to undermine our country and to undermine the rule of law, then no, you do not have a right to do that. You certainly do not have a right to be admitted into our country. And we need to recognize that and address it, or we're going to lose. And then we're going to be like Germany, and we're going to be like London, we're going to be like Paris, and we're going to be looking around going, well, what do we do now? Right? It's, we have 10% of the population and growing, and, 1,500 seats in elected officials throughout the United Kingdom. You've got 85 jurisdictions in Scotland where they can choose Sharia law instead of, as an alternative to Scottish law. We can't get to that point. We have to stop this right now.